If you like psychology videos, subscribe to Psychology in Minutes. Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the exact same situation, but react completely differently? One person gets criticized at work and thinks, "I'll improve next time." Another thinks, "I'm a complete failure." One person sees rejection as temporary. Another sees it as proof they're unlovable. One person makes a mistake and moves on. Another replays it mentally for weeks. Now, here's the question that changed modern psychology forever. What if your personality isn't shaped only by your past or unconscious mind, but by the way you think every single day? Today, we're diving deep into cognitive theory of personality, one of psychology's most practical and influential theories, explaining how thoughts shape emotions, behavior, personality, and mental health. We'll explore how this theory developed, automatic thoughts, cognitive distortions, self-beliefs, schemas, personality patterns, anxiety, overthinking, relationships, work behavior, and how changing thought patterns can completely change emotional experiences. And most importantly, can changing the way you think genuinely change your personality and life? To understand cognitive theory, we first need to understand what psychology looked like before it became popular. Earlier theories focused heavily on unconscious conflict or external behavior. But cognitive psychologists believed something important was missing. Human beings are constantly interpreting reality internally. Two people can experience the same event, but their thoughts create completely different emotional outcomes. This idea became central to cognitive psychology. Psychologists like Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis helped develop these ideas during the mid-1900s. Cognitive theory argues that thoughts, beliefs, interpretations, and mental patterns shape personality and emotional behavior. In simple terms, it's not only what happens to you that affects emotions, it's also how your mind interprets what happens. For example, imagine two students fail an exam. One thinks, "I didn't prepare enough. I can improve." The other thinks, "I'm stupid. I'll never succeed." Same event, completely different psychological reaction. Cognitive psychologists believed these repeated thought patterns slowly shape personality over time. Now, let's talk about schemas. Schemas are deep mental frameworks people develop about themselves, others, and the world. These schemas often begin through childhood experiences, relationships, trauma, and repeated emotional situations. Example, a child constantly criticized growing up may develop a schema saying, "I'm never good enough." As adults, people with this schema may overthink criticism, seek validation constantly, fear failure, become perfectionists. Even neutral situations may feel threatening because the brain filters reality through existing beliefs. This is why two people can interpret the same interaction differently. One person hears feedback, another hears rejection. Now let's explore automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts are rapid mental reactions happening almost instantly. Most people don't even notice them consciously. Example, a friend doesn't reply quickly. One person thinks, "They're probably busy." Another immediately thinks, "They're upset with me." That automatic interpretation affects emotions immediately. This explains why anxiety, insecurity, and overthinking feel so emotionally real. Your brain reacts not only to reality, but also to your interpretation of reality. Now, let's talk about cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions are unhealthy thinking patterns that twist perception. Some common distortions include catastrophizing, assuming the worst possible outcome. Example, "I made one mistake. My entire career is ruined." Mind reading, assuming others think negatively about you. Example, "They probably think I'm awkward." Black and white thinking, seeing situations as complete success or total failure. Example, "If I'm not perfect, I'm worthless." Personalization, blaming yourself for things outside your control. Example, "Everyone seems quiet today. I must have done something wrong." These distorted thought patterns strongly influence personality traits like anxiety, confidence, emotional stability, and self-esteem. Now let's explore how cognitive theory explains personality in daily life. At work, people with confident thinking patterns often handle setbacks more calmly. Meanwhile, people with highly self-critical thought patterns may experience imposter syndrome, burnout, perfectionism, fear of failure. Example, two employees receive constructive criticism. One sees it as growth, the other mentally spirals for days. Cognitive theory explains this through differences in interpretation. In relationships, thought patterns strongly affect attachment, trust, jealousy, and communication. Someone with abandonment-related schemas may overanalyze texts, emotional distance, or small changes in behavior. Meanwhile, emotionally secure individuals often interpret situations less catastrophically. Example, one partner thinks they need space. Another thinks they're losing feelings. Again, interpretation shapes emotional reaction. In friendships, people with low self-worth schemas may constantly fear exclusion or rejection. Others may become emotionally avoidant because they believe vulnerability leads to pain. Cognitive theory explains that personality is deeply connected to internal mental narratives. Now let's answer the biggest question. Can changing thought patterns actually change someone's life? Cognitive psychology says absolutely. This became the foundation of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT helps people identify distorted thoughts, challenge unhealthy beliefs, and replace destructive mental patterns with healthier interpretations. For example, instead of, "I always fail," the brain learns, "One mistake doesn't define me." Instead of, "Everyone hates me," the brain learns, "My anxiety is making assumptions." Over time, repeated cognitive changes can reduce anxiety, depression, emotional reactivity, and insecurity. Now here's something important. Cognitive theory does not mean people can simply think positively and erase trauma or mental health struggles. That's an oversimplification, but it does show how repeated thought patterns shape emotional experience. Your brain believes what it repeatedly hears from you, and over time, those thoughts become emotional habits. Now let's discuss how psychologists study cognitive personality patterns. Researchers use thought diaries, cognitive assessments, behavioral observation, personality testing, therapy analysis. Cognitive theory became one of the most scientifically supported approaches in modern psychology because thoughts can actually be studied, measured, and changed. Of course, the theory also has criticisms. Some psychologists argue it focuses too heavily on conscious thinking and may underestimate unconscious processes, biology, or emotional trauma. But its influence on therapy and personality psychology remains enormous because cognitive theory changed one powerful idea forever. People are not only shaped by events, they are also shaped by the stories their minds repeatedly tell about those events. And sometimes changing your life begins with noticing one thought you've repeated for years that was never completely true to begin with. Subscribe to Psychology in Minutes for more.